Joining me now is Seth Rogers, Sebastian's father, and Heather Cohen, a private investigator who is now working with him on the case. Thank you both for joining us. Seth, I have to start with you. First of all, I can't imagine being in your shoes. I'm so sorry that you're experiencing this, and I'm grateful that you're joining us tonight. I think our viewers need to understand Sebastian was not physically in the home with you. You are no longer married to his mother. But I just want to check in with you, see how you're doing, and if you know anything tonight that you can share with us.
Just know that he's still missing. I know that there's been really no leads that have been shared with me by law enforcement.
When you say there's no leads, are you working with law enforcement? Are they communicating with you?
Not communicating with me. If they're communicating with anybody, it would be my private investigator.
Okay, Heather, I want to weave you into the conversation. You started working with Seth. Why are you working with Seth, and what can you tell us so far?
Well, I had received several phone calls, people asking me to get involved in the case, but I wouldn't do it until I was invited in by a family member or law enforcement. And I did end up getting that phone call. A friend of mine said they had talked to Seth and he was looking for somebody, a PI to hire, and he had referred me. So I called Seth and here we are. That was about 2 weeks ago. And yes, law enforcement was standoffish at first with me. And I think that's just because, they had some, Seth can be hard to deal with because he's going through a lot right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of trauma. So what can you tell us so far about your investigation? What have you learned? What were the circumstances of the home, of his mother, of his stepdad, the thud that they heard?
Well, I can tell you that from my investigation, I believe that this is a domino effect of events. I believe that we have to go all the way back to probably December and January are going to be key months. There are a lot of events. There was a lot of turmoil surrounding Sebastian. We know that Chris Proudfoot was in the middle of a custody battle with his ex-wife. We know that the daughter did visit over Christmas break. We know that Sebastian was with Seth during that time. We know that that there was a DCS referral in, I believe, February to the Stafford home. That call was likely determined to be unfounded because the case was closed and that file is restricted at this time. I know Seth has tried to find out more about that call and he has been unsuccessful in doing so. But I've also recently learned that there may have been some talk about Chris leaving Katie, and I feel that probably had something to do with Sebastian. So there may have been some trouble in paradise. To me, these are all things that need to be considered. Could these things have led up to maybe Sebastian just feeling a certain kind of way and leaving? If he overheard a conversation between Chris and Katie where Chris is saying he can't deal with it anymore, he's out, whatever, that could have been motivation for Sebastian to just leave.
Seth, I want to bring you back into the conversation. Was Sebastian safe at his mother's home?
I've heard some things. I have mixed feelings about that.
Were you addressing it with your former wife?
Information that has been brought to my attention has been information received since Sebastian has left.
And the morning after he left, what happened in the home? Can you answer that?
I know that I received a phone call on my cell phone that I didn't get until I got off of work. Everything else would be law enforcement or speaking to Chris Proudfoot to figure out what happened.
Hey guys, Lady Freedom here with another short, raw narrative. Today, I want to just go ahead and update you on what's going on with the Sebastian Rogers case. Today, Pascal on the Pascal show read a statement from Seth's private investigator, who you just saw in the video, and it reads, Tracy and I have been working with the Sebastian Rogers case for a couple of weeks now, and I must say, we hit the ground running. We still had a lot of catching up to do. Again, I want to say that we appreciate every lead, so thank you to everyone who has sent in information. As we say in every case we work, please don't hesitate to call or message us with information. You may think it's nothing, but we won't know until we've had the opportunity to check it out. Obviously, I cannot share information that we haven't eliminated yet, but I can tell you some of the things that we have personally ruled out, not to be confused with LE or law enforcement's investigation, and what they have or haven't ruled out. 1. The sex offender that lives within a mile of Stratford is no longer a POI or person of interest in my investigation. I interviewed him, got his alibi, and validated his alibi thoroughly. Number 2, I can tell you that I know for a fact that Chris Proudfoot was accounted for in Memphis on Sunday evening and was on the job site at 5:15 a.m. on the morning that Sebastian was reported missing. So, guys, according to the PI, Chris Proudfoot was accounted for on Sunday evening in Memphis, and then he was accounted for at 5:15 a.m. Now, it doesn't specify what time Sunday evening that he was accounted for. So that leaves a pretty big window. What do you think? Moving on to number 3. We did follow up on the lead regarding Republic dumpsters being dumped at the Gallatin landfill that caught on fire. This is false. The dumpsters were dumped at AAA in Nashville, or AAA in Nashville. Also, I was able to confirm with law enforcement that those dumpsters were checked thoroughly in the early morning hours, of February 26th, 2024. Many of you have questioned what we, Chloe DXM, myself and our teams, in parentheses, are and have been doing. I cannot share that with you in detail, and I'm sorry for that. However, I promise you that we are all working very hard to find Sebastian and to get to the bottom of what's happened to him. I will provide more updates when I have something that can be shared. This isn't a 9 to 5 for us, it's a 24/7. Thank you all so much for your support. Respectfully. And then, of course, she signs off on the update. Today is Friday, April 26th, 2024. And yesterday was Thursday. And so all this information came out on Thursday, April 25th, 2024. Sebastian has been missing for 2 months, guys. For 2 months, his dad has been searching for him high and low, and is just now getting some straightforward and validating answers from a private investigator and her team. Well, thank God for Heather Cohen and her team, but honestly, it's very frustrating. You could see it all over Seth's face. it's just so frustrating knowing that Katie has the answers. And I'm not afraid after these developments to just put that out there. I know I've insinuated it since the first video I put out. Katie has answers. She just isn't sharing what she knows. In my humble opinion, Katie is impeding the investigation to find Sebastian. She has been impeding that investigation since day one. When we go back and look at news clips, when we go back and take a look at how she has acted at interviews, and believe me, I have a lot more for you guys. When we look at the fact that she hasn't put out any yard signs, that she hasn't put any missing posters up, the person spreading misinformation from day one is Katie Proudfoot and her husband, Chris Proudfoot. I know some people might think that I've gone very hard on Katie and Chris, which I have to agree, I've went very hard on Chris, but I've bit my tongue for the longest time on Katie. I have bit my tongue and I have tried to be kind about it. I've tried to just keep on reverting back to the facts, reverting back to the fact that she was the last one with Sebastian, that they were the only two in the home when this all occurred. But after spending hours and hours of research and looking through old police videos and what the police have said, the police have said that they talked to Katie every single morning. There's a video out there, and I was going to talk about it in my next video that I'm still working on. But they talk to him every morning. They sit down and talk with him. A week into the investigation. But they don't show Seth the same kind of courtesy. What's going on? If you ask me, the police in Sumner County need to get their collective shit together and start going back to day one and start going back to Katie, because she's obviously sat with you every morning and lied to your face. How and why is it that with all of the resources and everything that was done to find Sebastian, no one thought to start looking back at square one? And why is it that after Seth has to pay out a bunch of money, I'm sure, hopefully they're donating some of their time and working pro bono for him, but how is it that these PIs have only been working on this for 2 weeks and they've come up with more information about what really happened to Sebastian in that short frame of time that the law enforcement couldn't collectively get their asses together and figure out? I don't like to bash anybody, and I don't like to bash law enforcement in particular, because they are a necessary part of our society that makes our society function in a more constructive way. They hold us all accountable. But when there's a 15-year-old boy with autism that is out there for 60 days, I'm sorry. I don't care whose feelings I'm hurting. I don't care. What I would like to know more about is what happened to Sebastian on the night of February 25th, 2024. I'm going to reiterate. This is a direct quote from Heather, Seth's private investigator. I can tell you that I know for a fact that Chris Proudfoot was accounted for in Memphis on Sunday evening. This doesn't specify a time, it just says he was accounted for on Sunday evening. And then he was back on his job site at 5:15 a.m. Let's just assume a bit of a time frame or a window. Let's just play it safe, and let's say the earliest evening on Sunday, somebody would have said of an evening would have been about 5 or 6 o'clock. And then he was back accounted for at 5:15 a.m. So that leaves about a 10, 11 hour window of time. Now, if we're to believe the camera footage, the only footage that we have, it looks like UFOs. I've said that before, or, unidentified flying objects in the sky, but it's the flashlight video. If we're to assume that there were 2 people in that flashlight video, well, if it was around 3 a.m., it couldn't have been Chris Proudfoot unless he was pedal to the metal, and shaved an hour off of his time getting back to Memphis. And I just don't see that as being plausible. But again, we don't have any information. We don't have a correct timeline. It's been impossible to build a timeline for this case. And I'm here to tell you, I was building a timeline for someone else's case before I decided to take Sebastian's case as my first case that I wanted to do, because I just couldn't bear the thought of him being out there, and I still can't. What really piques my interest about this window is that this could have occurred. He could have been on the phone with Katie, and they could have done something and taken him somewhere, or did something to him in this time frame. This is still plenty of time to do something. And not only that, Katie was the one that was home with him. She was the only one in the house, is what she says. So if there's two people in the flashlight video, maybe it is her and Sebastian. I don't know. I mean, it's been a wild goose chase. And another thing I want to mention that was on Pascal's show earlier today was a quote from some other creators, and I'll read it to you right now. It says, "Due to misinformation and safety concerns, me and my YouTube friends CJ and Narked Divers will no longer be searching for Sebastian Rogers. All leads from this point forward should be sent to the PIs or the law enforcement. Sorry, but our safety has to come first." For those of you who don't know, Narc Divers were looking for Sebastian. They're kind of like those who shall not be named, the adventure guys who ended up being nasty creepoids. Well, one of them was anyway. Jared is a nasty creepoid. But yes, so they were helping with the search, and somehow they've ducked out because of a safety concern, and it wasn't elaborated on. That was the end of it, of what we got. But everything points to Katie and Chris Proudfoot and the way that they operate from day one. They have operated in misinformation. They have operated in ill intent, in my opinion. And they have operated on lies upon lies upon lies. They lie about the smallest things. They'll lie about something and then 2 seconds later turn around and do it, like Chris Proudfoot clapping his hands through Smiley's live. Yet he turns around and lets Katie stick up for him, and then 2 seconds later he's clapping again. Oh no, that wasn't me clapping. That was the guys that I work with. Oh, whatever. I mean, it's just to the point of ridiculousness. And I'm not going to stop pointing out your lies. I'm not going to stop exposing you for every little thing I find that you're doing, because you know what? Sebastian is the one that deserves to be found. I don't care what happens to you. And in my opinion, Katie knows what happened to Sebastian. And until she starts telling the truth, or until Chris wants to start fessing up and saying that, yeah, you know what, I was threatening to leave Katie. I hope to God she didn't do anything to her son. Something needs to break. Something needs to happen. Because this case, I've never seen anybody exhaust resources in this way before. I mean, they're literally exhausting every resource that they have. And not in the way that they should be exhausting a resource, which is doing everything you possibly can. That's exhausting resources. But they are literally exhausting the people that are working on this case, because they can't get a straight answer. And I'm also going to revert back to what the Uvalde Foundation said. They said last week that they were done dealing with the misinformation from the family. And they weren't talking about Seth. They did hashtag at Seth Rogers, but I'm pretty sure they were talking about the Proudfoots and all the misinformation and all of the lies, literally exhausting resources, literally impeding the investigation to find Sebastian. When they were asked if Sebastian is a burden to them, Katie didn't say a damn word. She didn't say a damn thing. It took a minute for Chris to say, oh no, I don't think so. In my marriage, no. Oh no, he wasn't a burden in my marriage. Katie didn't say shit. It's time for law enforcement to get off their collective asses, get their collective shit together, and start making Katie talk. They know how to do interrogations. They know how to make people talk. They need to start making her talk. Because until they do, we're not going to have any answers. We're not going to be able to find Sebastian. God only knows where he is. I do know this. Every single place has been searched. And if law enforcement doesn't want to admit that they should have investigated more thoroughly the home that Sebastian was last seen and heard from, the very last place he was at. And I understand, I'm sure they didn't want to go hard on the mother or blame her or anything like that, but they should have done a more thorough investigation. I know for a fact that within the first 7 days, they were at that house and investigating the actual house 10 times. What they did, I don't know. What I do know is they had missed opportunities, and they missed a lot of opportunities to treat his home as if it were a crime scene. And when a child goes missing, that's exactly what needs to be done. It doesn't matter about whose feelings get hurt, because I could tell you as a parent, I don't mind if they're looking at me. I want them to exhaust every single effort that they can. I want them to do every single thing they can to bring my child home. And I'm sorry, but Katie Proudfoot does not feel that way. She screams it through her actions and her inaction to do anything, and her omitting information. And don't get me started on her lack of emotion. It's like talking to a potato head, I swear. The elephant in the room, the double-edged sword of accusing a mother of such a horrendous deed without enough evidence. That sword is just as sharp on both ends when we have a 15-year-old boy who has been missing for 60 days. I'm done sparing Katie's feelings because it's about Sebastian. At the end of the day, it's about finding him and bringing him home. So what's it going to be, Katie? Are you going to tell the truth? Or are you going to let more days go by and more lies add up? Because it's going to be too hard to keep up. It already is. You're caught in one lie after another. So you might as well just go ahead and tell the truth. Or would you rather the PI just dig it up like everything else that they've had to dig up on you and Chris? I mean, it's up to you. It's only a matter of time, and the truth is going to come out. So you could either start telling the truth now and save a little bit of face with people, or you can continue on with the lies, deceiving us all, treating us all like we're stupid, treating people like we don't know what you're doing. The choice is really yours. It's up to you. You're not stupid, Katie. You've been in the military. You're a smart woman. You're very articulate when you want to be. You too know that the truth shall set you free. So what's it going to be? I hope and pray that you will choose your son. I hope you will choose the truth. I hope you will choose the right thing to do, even if you didn't do so to begin with. Either way, I will be praying every day for Sebastian to return home safe and for the truth to come spilling out. Thank you all so much for listening to my rant. I usually try to think out and really take time with the things that I put out there and the things that I say. And so I apologize if I got a little bit heated, but it's just getting to the point of ridiculousness. This is Lady Freedom. This was my raw narrative for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all very soon. Stay safe.